Good afternoon. My name is Momi Tuua, and welcome to our USBE 504 LEA Expenditures WebEx training. This is an interactive training, and I will be going from my PowerPoint to the YouTube channel where you are viewing this training to answer any questions that you may have. So you may see the screen disappear with my PowerPoint slides, but I will be shifting over onto the YouTube site to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for joining us, and I apologize for not having the training this morning and having to move it to 2 p.m. this afternoon. There were some extenuating circumstances that required several of us to respond to a situation earlier today. And so I'm happy that you're able to join us. I wanted to also remind you and let you know that this training will be recorded. We will also offer another training on June 6th at 8:30 in the morning. It'll be an hour long, just like this one. Both trainings will be recorded, and I will push this out on the listserv sometime tomorrow. I wanted to briefly go over some slides here and then show you some updates that we have on our website. The purpose of this training is to meet our board rule that our board rule R277753, that where there's a portion that speaks to reports that are due to the Utah State Board of Education. And one of the reports is the LEA Expenditure Report, something that each LEA has to generate and send to us, and that's what we're going to go through today. There's another portion of the report, and I'm going to go ahead and go quickly through these slides. Many of you have seen this before and it looks familiar, but I'm going to update you on each piece here. So I jumped ahead. Let's go back to the second slide and we'll move through this. Okay, so right now there is no current funding from our federal government to cover the expenses for our students receiving 504 accommodations. There still aren't currently any states that have provided state funding to support LEAs or school districts or charter schools in paying for the expenditures of our 504 students. Last year, there was a law that came into place that opened up the opportunity for our districts and charter schools to receive funding for students with, to help support students with accommodations, 504 accommodations specifically. And so Utah is the flagship state in looking and examining what those funds look like, or expenditures. Okay, so this is the Senate bill that went through the state code or law, and basically requiring us this year to provide them a report on January 30th. So thank you to all districts and charter schools who came on board with me in the fall and submitted your report early November so that I could prepare it for our state board to look at the expenditures, and then they passed it on to legislature. And I would say 98% of all charter schools and districts participated in this, where we were able to provide a complete report to legislature. They looked at it, and according to funding priorities, they did not allocate funding for the following year, 2018-19, but they are looking at this and considering this a priority. And so we are continuing in providing them information, and here's where we come in to meet board rule in submitting your report by June 30th. So here is the state board rule that speaks to two reports. One is done through your student information system that is interfaced with our reporting mechanism through Utrex. So right now, your IT people should have already built the parameters within your student information system that has an entry and exit date of your Section 504 students, an indicator of which disability category they are identified in order to qualify for Section 504 accommodations. Now, when that's built into your student information system, we are able to pull the data at USBE and look at it in a statewide lens. And this Utrex information we are able to extract or pull at any given time throughout the year. Because of this, you do not have a due date for number one of this board rule. Okay? You should be currently uploading or indicating your Section 504 students and their disability category, and as well as their entry date in receiving eligibility and accommodations. So that's something you don't have to produce a report for. But then focusing on number 2, it says an LEA shall report financial costs. And when I say LEA, this refers to a district or charter school. Shall report financial costs incurred as a result of Section 504 accommodations to the Utah State Board of Education superintendent through your UPIPS reporting mechanism by June 30th annually. That is written in the rule. I know some of you are looking at your calendar right now and you see that June 30th lies on a Saturday. We don't change the dates because it's written in board rule, and each year those days change. And so if you can get it to USBE by the 29th, that would satisfy the due date requirement. If you upload it on the 30th on a Saturday, again, that would satisfy the requirement. This is what I was referring to earlier. On your student information system, you should have these parameters already set, having worked with your IT specialists. This was information that was sent out last year in the spring, and then again at the beginning of the year in September, and then again, I would say about a month and a half ago. And so please, if you're looking on your student information system and you do not see a designated 504 area for students, then you need to have this conversation with your IT person, ensuring that these reports are, or the parameters are set so that we can receive them through Utrex. I am going to pause here for a second and look at my YouTube account to see if I have any questions. Okay, I don't see that I have any questions. Okay, so I will go back to my slide. And continue on. So number 2 of the board rule, it talks about sending to us your LEA expenditure report. And because this is sensitive information, we want you to send it through UPIPS, UPIPS. This is a familiar, secure site for your special education coordinator or director. If you do not have the username or password to the site, either receive it from your special education director, or you send this report after you've completed it to the special education director. They will upload it in using this platform where we are able to download the report. Okay, so you PIPs, again, please get together with your special education director, either create a username and password to the UPIP site for you, or submit the report to the special education director where he or she will upload it in UPIPs and we're able to extract it from USBE. Mainly, the reason why we're doing this again is to keep the information secure and not have it go through an email system. Please do not send this report, completed report, to me via email. Okay. When is the report due? Again, June 30th. Many of you may be asking, why did we have to send a report in November and we need to send one again in June? The November report was to help legislature understand what types of funding or expenditures districts and charter schools have to absorb in order to support their students. So this is the first time that they're getting a financial fiscal statewide report on Section 504 expenditures. That's why we needed it, and thank you for submitting it. And then the reason why we're doing it again is it's part of our board rule, and there again, legislature, they start early in the year to look at fiscal priorities. And so when we receive this report in June, it gives us a few weeks to prepare it and present it to the board, and their legislature may want to look at it, and they will use that as a tool to determine priority for funding. Okay, so before I go into the actual spreadsheet, here are some FAQs that I wanted to go through. These are some common questions that were asked, and I wanted to clarify them point by point. Do we have to report all students with 504s even though there is no expense incurred to support their needs? Okay. Yes, you report just the number of students with 504 accommodations on tab 2. Okay, and I will show you the report and refer to that in just a minute. Where are the different disability categories that I need to declare for each student? Again, it should be on your student information system, but it also is written in rule that I showed 2 or 3 slides before this one. And then I have it on the expenditure report as well under tab 1, instructions. Okay. Another question is, do I include principal, teacher, and counselor hours as part of the cost for managing 504 plans? That was a common question that was asked. No, it is not included. Their time is not included in administering and supporting Section 504 students. That is part of our duties as educators and administrators. There is, however, a designated funding piece that we look at for Section 504 coordinators and the percentage of time they dedicate to supporting schools as the 504 coordinator. If it's the 504 coordinators, 100% of his or her time is dedicated to be a 504 coordinator, then it would include the entire salary. There are some districts and charter schools where leadership, you wear many different hats. So what is the percentage under Section 504 coordinator duties do you dedicate? And if it's 30%, then it's 30% of your salary. And then there again, corresponding staff support and time is also reported on the expenditure spreadsheet. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the report. I'm going to take a peek at any questions that might be on YouTube, and I don't see any questions coming up, so I will continue with my presentation. So here is the LEA expenditure reporting spreadsheet. And as you can see, under tab 1, instructions, it shows the due date, the purpose, the rule, and what is required under a section of the rule, section 3, and then the 9 different disability categories identified, and then some instructions here. Okay, so if we go to tab 2, or this box, it says, let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, tab 2, overall cost and data. This tab captures total 504 student count of all students receiving accommodations. Okay, and it also captures administrative costs directly associated with managing 504 plans by the LEA 504 coordinator. Okay, so let's go to tab 2. And here is where, let me make that bigger again. You will calculate or pull from your student information system the number of all students receiving Section 504 accommodations, whether they receive a support that is attached to a cost, okay, or not. Some of our students, their accommodation could simply be that they have extended time on assignments or tests. That doesn't come with a cost. Do we count them in this total number? Yes, we do. As well as the students who have costs tied to their 504 supports that they're receiving. So it's all students receiving Section 504 accommodations. Right here is where you put the number. So I'm just going to give you an example. 100 students at my school district or charter school are receiving 504 accommodations. And then we put in the salary, and maybe it's a portion of the salary as a 504 coordinator, and the portion of my staff support salary that I will include in this report. And what it will do is it will average the cost per all students under Section 504. That cost is reflected, the average cost is $590. Okay. So there are fields, as you could see, when I put in numbers in row 3, column A, row 4, column A, row 5, column A, there was an automatic calculation that occurred in row 7 and 8 in column A. These 2 boxes are locked. You're not able to manipulate. This is a formula-based calculation where these boxes are locked. All you need to worry about is filling out the first 3 boxes here. Okay. So let's go back to the instructions and go to tab 3 under student accommodations cost or costs. It says, please report only students whose expenditures have exceeded the 150% of the WPU or $5,092. Okay. I'm going to repeat this part because this is something different than what you reported in November. In November, you went to tab 3 and you wrote down every single student, whether there was a cost incurred or not, you wrote down every student who incurred a cost, even though they did not exceed the WPU. Right? You wrote that down, every single expenditure. And when you, but this, for the June report, you will only need to report the students whose expenditure exceeded $5,092 for the entire school year. Okay? No other reporting needs to be done if the expenditure is below the $5,092 for the year. Let me go back to YouTube to see if I have any questions. Okay, I've got a question. Okay, so some of us are asking, okay, we submitted a report in November. Are we submitting this exact same report in June? It might not be the exact same report. It could be that a student's 504 was started in January, right? Or in the November report, you had reported all expenditures. For the June report, you're going to report only the students whose expenditure exceeded $5,092. Okay, very good question. So go back to your November report and you could simply add or delete what you have there, and according to what you have by the end of the year. Okay, so students again who have not incurred a cost beyond $5,092, you don't need to include them in the June 30th report. So another question is, when will we be receiving the report template? I sent it out earlier, a couple of weeks ago, but I just sent it out right at 2 o'clock today. So go into your email, and on the Section 504 Coordinators listserv, I included an attachment to my email. That is the report that I am showing you right now on my screen. This is what you got in your email a few minutes ago. Thank you for asking these questions. And then another question, for a student who receives OT services, are those costs entered under support staff? Another great question. She is asking, do those costs come under tab 2 where it says support staff? The answer is no. Here is where you put that cost in. Okay, so we're going to go to tab 3, and this is the spreadsheet where you will enter your students who've exceeded that $5,092 benchmark or cost. You're going to write the student's state student ID number, okay, and then you're going to identify the disability category. So there's an example right above what I'm typing in, and then you see this $590. This is the average, that formula that came from tab 2, 590. It's carried over to this part, okay, because we want to add the administrative costs. This is the average for all of your students. Then you write down under which service provider. Is it under a speech language pathologist, a paraprofessional? Someone asked about OT services. Here it is, occupational therapy. If it's from a therapist or a paraprofessional, OT paraprofessional, then you write the costs there. So I'm going to put, in the end, it costs this much, $8,000. it will, for this student, it will automatically calculate the $590 plus the $8,000 under the paraprofessional for the entire year. And then the calculation will show that the expenditure exceeded the $5,092, and there is a $3,498 overage expense there, where the LEA will be able to submit a reimbursement application, not for just this student, but other students within the district or charter school whose expenditure exceeds that 150% threshold. Okay, that's how you're going to be able to track your students, and this is how we're able to provide this information to legislature and our school board. Okay, so that, again, I went through it quickly, but you will write the student information ID number, the disability category. This column is locked, you can't do anything with it. But then you can start to go down what types of services and costs were incurred for this student, and there's a list of it, and then it will calculate the overage at the end, oops, right here. Okay, these columns are locked as well. There's a formula that captures this information and spits it out. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the YouTube to see if anyone else has any questions. I don't see any questions. Oops. I will quickly go through tabs 1, 2, and 3 again. Again, tab 1 is basic information regarding this expenditure report, the state code, the board rule, the different disability categories, the due date for the expenditure report, and then instructions for tabs 2 and 3. Okay. Tab 2, you come here and you capture all of your students receiving Section 504 accommodations, regardless of cost or not. Then the total calculated salary for your Section 504 coordinator, and then the expenditures associated with support staff, your secretary that supports the 504 coordinator. These numbers can be manipulated. The formula here, you cannot go in and change those numbers. Okay. And then when you go to tab 3 of the report, this is where you individualize your students and their expenses. There's an automatic calculation that happens at the end of the report in column AC. That will give you an overall cost that you are providing as an LEA, and it gives us an overall cost that we aggregate with all districts and charter schools, and we provide this information to the board and legislature. Okay, I will pause and go back to questions that are being asked. I have more. Since IDEA funds must only be used for IDEA eligible students, how are 504 students using related service providers who are being paid out of those funds? To make that clear, and that's a very good question, we cannot mix the funding. So if a student is receiving support from an OT paraprofessional, there needs to be an indication that for this student under Section 504, they are not using this the funds under IDEA. Okay, so the question is, you would have to go back to your business administrator, and if there's a percentage of time where you will need to use a specialist or paraprofessional that typically works under IDEA, that needs to be clarified where the funding needs to come from another source and not from special education. I do recognize that some of our LEAs, we provide support to a school community that is very small in a rural area or even a charter school. And I can continue this conversation. If you'd like to give me a call, we can discuss this even further. Technically speaking, though, we don't mix funds under IDEA for 504 students. 504 support needs to come from a different funding source. There are some districts, and I would say districts, I haven't learned of any charter schools that do this yet, but if you are a charter school that does this, let me know. Please email me and inform me on this. But there are school districts where their board has line item budgeted or allocated money for 504 students. I've seen that based on their prior year data, they estimate how much it will cost to support their students, and they allocate that funding just for their 504 students. Another question, is there a definition for each disability category? Should a student with disabilities be categorized as medical only, or would major bodily function be included? I would say that it could be under both. Okay, because there are some students, it would definitely be major bodily function. Is there a medical identifier or support that the student needs? And that is something that is determined by the Section 504 team. I would say typically it would be under both. Okay. So we've gone to the report. How do we submit the report? Oh, shoot. I did that wrong. We submit it through UPIPS, stands for Utah Program Improvement Planning System for Special Education. The reason why we're doing this is because it's a secured platform. Please do not email the report to me. Talk to your special education director, and they will be able to upload this report where I will be able to go in and download it. Okay. I've learned that some special education coordinators or directors create a username and password specifically for the 504 coordinator. I see some districts and charter schools whose special education coordinator says, just send the report to me and I will upload it in through UPIPS. Either way is fine. If you have any questions, for some reason you're not able to upload the report, please contact Emily, by the way. That is her email address and her phone number. Several of you might already know Emily. If you know her, she's very responsive and she'll get an answer to you as quickly as possible. We're talking minutes, okay? But please, as much as possible, try to start your report as early as you can. You know, you need to wait till the school year ends, but as early as you can, and so that when you come up against maybe this kink in uploading the UPIPS, you're not finding yourself on a Friday afternoon trying to do that. but we do want to be responsive to your needs. If you're caught in a quandary, please contact us. And you can also email me. I will be looking at any questions you may have, even on Saturday as well. So once you get into UPIPs, this is what the screen looks like. You use your email and password that's been created. Then you go to the top bar. You'll see document storage. You click on that. And then when you click on that, you're going to come to this page here. And you're going to see that you've submitted different reports, or your special education coordinator has submitted different reports. What you need to do in order to upload your expenditure report is you go down to the bottom left of the screen and it says Add LEA Document. You click on that, you upload your report, you click on Finish, and you'll see it reflected on the screen that it has been successfully uploaded. And once you see it on the screen, then you know that it's uploaded and you're good to go. This is what it looks like when you click on LEA Document. You just like anything that you upload, choose File, go into your files, click Save, and look for that upload. Oops. Before I end, I'm going to go back to any questions you may have. Why are we not just using the USOE SFT upload to upload the report? I'm not familiar with SFT. This UPIPs was something that the special education director provided. And if you'd like to teach me what the USOE SFT report platform is, I'm happy to learn about it. For this year, however, we will stick with UPIPs, and we'll take that into consideration. But thank you for bringing that question up. And please email me or call me. In closing, I wanted to show you a couple of things. Number one is, if you will join me and pull up another screen, a web page, and go to schools.utah.gov. I'm going to lead you to my Section 504 site and show you some of the resources that we have there. Schools.utah.gov. Once you come to this screen, click on Departments/Programs. Okay, click on that. And then where you need to go is not as intuitive as we would like it to be. You need to go under School Counseling, Equity and Prevention, under S, and click on that. That's where you're going to find Section 504. So click School Counseling, Equity and Prevention. And here is our section. Under Educational Equity, you will see my support that I provide statewide and Section 504. Okay. Clicking on Section 504, here is where I have attached or downloaded roles and responsibilities of Office for Civil Rights, charter school and district 504 coordinators, a Utah Parent Center resource for parents, and even for questions that you may have. Okay. This is mainly a resource for parents, however, in helping parents, providing support to parents of students with disabilities, or helping them through the child find process. This is where I'd like to focus for just a minute. Under the Educator Administrator header, we have revised the USBE guidelines, Section 504 guidelines for administrators and educators. Clicking on this, please click on it. And this is a PDF where you're able to quickly scroll through where you need information. So I'm going through the first few pages. Okay, the title page, the current board members, the key acronyms that are used in students with disabilities. I need to be clear about something, that Section 504 is a law that protects students with disabilities. It also, we sometimes think that it's only exclusive to students whose has a mental or physical impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activity in order for them to access their general education. Section 504 also covers students with IEPs if they are being discriminated against. Okay, so that's probably where the blend and sometimes the confusion occurs. Section 504 still supports students with IEPs when they are being discriminated against. And so here you see acronyms under Section 504 that are Section 504 related and also special education related. Now, this is the important table right here. Instead of you scrolling through 77 odd pages of this handbook, we've made this more interactive. That if you come, and when you come to the table of contents, maybe I just need to know what does my annual notice to parents need to look like for students with disabilities? Where's that? So I click on this part of the table of contents, and once you click on it, it automatically scrolls to the area of the handbook. And then you can go back to the table of contents, because maybe I needed to know what are the examples of disabilities and accommodations that I could use and incorporate into with my 504 team in the decision-making process. So I'm going to click on that part of the table of contents. It goes directly to examples of supports and accommodations that students may need under their disability, specific disability or impairment that they may have. Again, you can go straight back to the table of contents and look at other pieces. Where is it? Where's Utah law? What are the glossary of terms? Here they are. I can go back to the table of contents. So we are going digital. We don't provide paper handbooks, and we hope that you find this tool accessible and supportive of what you're seeing you need in the field. The other part that is good about having this online is, as things change or as guidance comes to USBE from the Office for Civil Rights, or as you as 504 coordinators see that this can be a better tool, we can take this down and update it and then put it back up again without having to reprint and redistribute the handbook. So please take some time in looking at this. Give us feedback that you may have. We held a meeting in the fall. Many of you online as well as in person, you participated in giving us feedback for a handbook that you would find more useful to you, and this is how we have responded. Okay, but that doesn't mean that we We won't accept other feedback. So take some time, and I guess you will find it more useful in context as you are supporting your schools and students and their families. Your feedback is always welcome. We want to make this is your tool. We want to make it useful to you. Okay. I'm going back to the YouTube channel to see if I have any additional questions. It doesn't look like I do. Okay. Okay. Because I'm going to end with a last part of what I have learned in working with someone who gathers 504 reports nationwide. Several years ago, the Office for Civil Rights, they ask for data every 2 years. And this is data that you report as districts and charter schools directly to the Center for Civil Rights Data Center. And when looking at students receiving 504 accommodations, in comparison to other states in the union, we were ranked 48th, meaning that in finding students who are eligible and determining their eligibility in comparison per capita to other states, we were 48th. We're at the bottom. Now that we have the expenditure report that came through in the fall, I was able to give the better data to a CRDC specialist, where preliminarily speaking, because we have better data, we have moved up into the 22nd place of all states in the union in providing 504 supports to students. Now, what does that mean? I guess there's a formula out there that has an indicator as to whether or not we're appropriately finding students with disabilities and providing the accommodations that they need. And it looks like we're paying better attention or capturing better data on our students. And in doing so, I believe that all LEAs are looking and supporting students. The kink in the reporting mechanism was that it wasn't being reported consistently from year to year as to which students, or not which students, how many students received 504 accommodations. Because of the legislative bill that came through last year, as well as our board rule that was passed last year, our districts and our charter schools are reporting better data. And I don't know about you, but moving from 48th place to 22nd, that's a huge jump, a huge jump. And I want to commend you as 504 coordinators. These are just numbers. You're working with students and families. You're working with administrators and teachers. And I commend you for this work that you are doing. And thank you for providing this data. And I also want to let you know that we want to support you here, that as you're doing this final report, we will respond to your questions that you may have. Now, it may be that you might want to join us in our June 6th training. Again, we have another training June 6th, and there might be other questions that 504 coordinators may ask. You're welcome to join us, And if you're not able to, we'll have a recording and we'll push it out. Okay. And so we want to be as responsive as possible. A question asked, am I going to distribute the PowerPoint? Absolutely. Along with the recording of this webinar, I will push this out as soon as I can, and and answer questions that you may have. Thank you again for joining me. I'm just going to pause for a few seconds to see if there are any additional questions. And we will end our webinar with information. My email address, momi.tuua@schools.utah.gov. These are different links that you can access to receive or look at information. If you haven't joined our 504 coordinators listserv, your business administrators or whomever, they are welcome to join the listserv by clicking on this link. I see that I didn't include my phone number. I believe I have it on the first slide, but here it is again, 801-538-7828. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you and your recommendations and your support for your students. Thank you. We will conclude this training for today, and please join me if you'd like to and can on June 6th. Talk to you later.